Welcome classic rock fans to my end of year review, and what an interesting year it's been. It's certainly been an interesting year for this channel in many respects. We're kind of getting to the 5,000 subscribers mark now. I know I let it grow organically. I don't advertise this channel at all, so I'm quite pleased with that. Also, the ad revenue I now get off this channel means I can afford to go out and buy a curry a couple of times a month at least, on you of course, so I'm very grateful for that. But seriously, I'm really am grateful for the time you take to watch my reviews in this channel, because I know there's an awful lot of competition out there on YouTube, so any of those minutes spent watching my reviews is much appreciated. That being said, I'd like to give a call out to a couple of channels that I'm really enjoying at the moment. One is Track by Track. I think it's Kyle from Track by Track. I love the fact that he seems to have the jump on all this stuff that's coming out. He must have a crystal ball or something. I don't know how he does it, but I certainly like to tune into what he says. And Life in Surround, really interesting. He seems to, I mean, there's a lot of music reviewers out there, but he has this niche where he talks about specifically surround sound mixes, which is always an interesting source of information. Do check out those channels and subscribe. I'll put links down below. Also, something I'm very pleased with is the publication of my book, Poems for Children and Silly People. These are basically poems that I've been collecting over the years, certainly since my first daughter was born, and I've finally managed to tweak them and publish them. It has nothing to do with classic rock music, so mentioning it on this channel is a bit of a shameless plug, really. But I want to sell as many copies as possible, and for every copy I do sell, I will be making a donation, albeit a small donation, to Smile Train. I mean, look at some of the illustrations in there. Aren't they brilliant? And this one as well. I don't know if my camera's focusing properly on. This is my favourite one. Isn't that great? So go over to Amazon and buy that. It's a snip at $5.99. It's not expensive. And I much appreciate that as well. I will put a Amazon link in the box below as well. Now, no further ado, let's talk about the year that's gone. A lot of people ask me loads of questions like, what was the best album of the year? Well, gosh, I mean, that's a difficult one, really. The best album of the year, I mean, I really did enjoy Liam Gallagher's new album, I'll be honest with you. I've had it on my MP3 player at the gym for quite a long time now. I think Ghosteen by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds is an album that really has really struck me. It's very ambient, very dark, brooding, emotionally cathartic. I quite enjoy that record. So at the moment, that's the album from this year that I'm listening to the most. Anyway, the more taxing question is, what is the album of the decade? I mean, I'd have to see a full list of everything that was released over the last 10 or so years, 10 years I should say, in order for me to make an informed choice. But off the top of my head, and not that there's a lot on the top of my head, of course, I would say The National's Trouble Will Find Me is an album that's really resonated with me, and it's one that I still play an awful lot, and loved seeing them support Neil Young and Crazy Horse in Hyde Park a few years back. Marillion's Fear is a fabulous album, still is a great album. I often talk about being at the centre of the political zeitgeist, really. It's a kind of an appeal for, I see it as an appeal for liberalism and globalism in many respects that's being profoundly rejected, not only across England but across Europe as well, in favour of a kind of a more traditionalism or nationalism. But nevertheless, it's still a great album. It's a great album thematically, musically. For me, one of the greatest albums of this decade is an album that really resonates with me and I listen to fairly regularly, really, which is, if I listen to something often and frequently, to me it's a testament to how good I think it is, because there's so much competition for my time in terms of music. But Paul Simon's So Beautiful, So What is an album that came out, what was it, 2013 I think it was, 2011 possibly. Is an absolutely incredibly beautiful album, and certainly is up there as one of my albums of the decade. If I had to think about my best gig of the year, I think I would go the Marillion Weekend, which was absolutely an incredible experience. The music was performed beautifully, exquisitely, the sound was fantastic, and of course myself and my daughter got invited up on the stage, which was a fantastic moment, certainly for me and for her as well. There is a video of that on my channel. I will put the link down below if you want to check that out. Other gigs of the year, of course, I would say, Kiss were fantastic. there's lots of controversy about Paul Stanley potentially miming or whatever, but it was still a great show. I really enjoyed it. Was able to sort of lose a few brain cells at that one. I really thought it was great. Best gig of the decade for me would be the Eagles at the O2, obviously before Glenn Fry passed away. That was an incredibly beautiful show. The music was exquisite. It was they played fantastic. I mean, I just loved the swagger of those guys, the way Don Henley and Glenn Fry just walk on the stage with acoustic guitars at the beginning, and you know, and it just builds and builds and builds all the way, almost like a 2.5 hour, 2 hour 45-minute set. I couldn't afford the best seats. I was right up in the sort of nosebleed seats at the O2, but they still managed to draw everybody in. What a fantastic show that was. I don't think I could go and see the Eagles now, not without Glenn Fry. Unless the only way that would tempt me back to seeing the Eagles is if Don Felder was brought back on board, which if you read Don Felder's biography, I can't see that happening anytime soon. Let's see, on my list, best reissue of the year. Well, for me, it'd be a toss-up between the Beatles' Abbey Road and Jethro Tull, any Jethro Tull reissue, because the Stephen Wilson masters and the attention to detail in those Tull reissues are absolutely sublime. They're fantastic. I've been a huge Tull fan. Do you know what? I'm going to call it out and say Stormwatch is the best reissue of this year. Marillion's Afraid of Sunlight is also excellent as well, because it's a brilliant album as well. But it's with the Marillion remasters and reissues, there isn't as much attention to detail and stuff, if you like, that you get with their reissues as you are currently getting with the Jethro Tull reissues. What do I anticipate for next year? Well, I'm looking forward to seeing Nick Mason in the Saucerful of Secrets gig in Leicester. If you see me there, please say hello, buy me a pint by all means. What else am I looking for? I'm hoping there'll be a reissue of Jethro Tull's A with a fully restored Slipstream concert. I know that was on the remaster a few years back, but I'm hoping there's some footage that they can recover and sort of restore a full concert from that period. I think it was really, I mean, I love the classic Tull lineup, which I see as David Palmer and John Glasscock and Barry Mabolo and all those guys. But I find that quite intriguing with Eddie Jobson brought on board, and it was quite an interesting time as well for Jethro Tull, where they completely reinvented themselves. Another thing I'm also looking forward to next year is I've got a ticket to go and see Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds at the O2. I'm cutting down on a lot of gigs that I go to. I'm going to fewer and fewer big gigs, really. They're too expensive and too much travelling involved, so I tend just to go to ones in Cambridge and Leicester, sort of around me. And I don't want to pay more than 40-50 quid to see a gig these days, to be honest with you. I might go and see Springsteen tours next year. I might be tempted to go and see Springsteen the E Street Band again. Again, depends on the ticket prices. I'm not paying £120, £130 to see anybody anymore. Right, in terms of Christmas presents this year, I've got some interesting gifts under the tree. The first one is something I actually bought for myself, to be honest with you. The price, I couldn't believe it. It came down from something like nearly 40 quid to $16.99. As soon as it hit the $16.99 mark, I just snapped it up, and that is this lovely deluxe, something like, how many discs? 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 disc version of the Verve's Urban Hymns, an album that I loved at the time, played it to death. Certainly one of the great albums of the 90s, I think, along with sort of Radiohead's OK Computer. So that was a gift to myself, really, to be honest with you. From other people, of course, from the nearest and dearest, I was given this, a brilliant document of Dylan's Rolling Thunder tour. The documentary on Netflix is definitely worth checking out. I don't know what the quality of the recordings are like. I'll certainly be interested to listen to them, as I love this period of Dylan's output, if you like. Desires is probably arguably my favourite Dylan album of all time. But so that'll certainly make for interesting listening. I don't know if any of you can recommend it. And what else is there? This was bought for me as well. The lovely Stephen Wilson full Dog's Bollocks version of Jethro Tull's debut album, this was. Now, I didn't buy this when it came out. That's why there was no unboxing video, because I'm not a massive fan of their first album. I've always said that I think Jethro Tull's first album is kind of like Stand Up, really. But they are beautiful just to have. You know, they're just lovely just to own, I think. And I shall enjoy reading about this album and listening to it. What else was there? Was there more? And finally, which came as a real surprise for me, as my wife got wind of the fact I used to love Adam the Ants when I was about 11, I got this wonderful deluxe, beautiful copy of Kings of the Wild Frontier. It's loads of discs, unreleased stuff, album remastered, which I shall enjoy listening to, taking a stroll down Amnesia Lane and enjoying. I wonder if it sounds really dated to me now if I listen to it, but who knows? I shall really enjoy that. Anyway, on that note, I shall leave it there and wish you all a happy new year, and thank you all again for watching the videos that I upload, subscribing to my channel, of course. Do click like, subscribe, by all means, watch, share this video, but more importantly, please do keep listening.